Hello everybody, this is Marty. Thank you very much for joining the channel. Today we're talking about setting up the BMW M6 GT3 car we are using while league racing, and I was struggling a bit with the car in the beginning, especially after patch 5.02, and find a decent basic setup which I want to share with you guys. First you see, of course, the tuning menu. We go to tuning setup, so I can show you a few changes we made, and you can go to race engineer, give you a couple of tips and stuff, but we prefer our own setup, so we can go to edit setup, but for starters we want to load the stable setup. That's very important. You can see a ton of setups already created. We want to go to the all track section at the top of the screen. After you selected that, you go to the stable setup. We don't want a new setup, we want a stable rear. That's very important for us, so we go to the stable setup and we go to edit setup screen. After we selected that, you can change a couple of things like tire pressure, brake pressure, front direct opening, stuff like that. All very important. We start things with brake pressure and we keep this between 93 and 96, depending on track and those kind of things, but with my pedals somewhere between 93 and 96 would be ideal. Brake balance somewhere between 58 and 62 depending on conditions. Front direct opening, this is very important depending on temperature of the brakes, but somewhere between 40 and 75 will be fine. And please keep in mind you can keep the rear brakes more close. That will increase your top speed. So if you keep the front at 40, you can keep the back at 30. Keep the front at 60, you can keep the back at 50, for example. Very important things. After that, we go to weight bias and for starters, brake tire pressure. You can choose between soft, hard, ice, and wet tires. And basically your ideal pressure is between 1.7 and 1.8 in hot conditions, and in cold conditions we're talking about between 1.3 and 1.4 depending on track conditions. I basically leave it on 1.3 and that's fine most of the time. So sometimes I increase it to 1.4 at the front, but most of the time 1.3 is fine, especially with your harder tires. If you use the softer tires, might go to 1.4 at the front, for example. After that, weight bias, very important with the BMW M6 GT3. Keep it at 51 at the back. It's a rear-wheel drive, you want traction at the back, keep it at 51. After that, downforce, also very important. This is a very high powered car with a possibility of a good top speed. It doesn't have a good top speed. It has that much power that basically with a long straight like with Bathurst, you're halfway, you're already on top speed. So give yourself a bit more downforce. It will help you in the corner. So I suggest somewhere between 1 and 2 depending on the track, and the rear somewhere between 4 and 8 depending on the track. I won't keep it on 0 because it has no use with this car, to be honest. Maybe with other cars, with increased top speed, with this car, you won't benefit a thing with it. So somewhere between 4 and 8 at the back and 1 or 2 at the front will be fine. Suspension. Cluster angle, I keep mine at 7.4. Camber angle, I keep mine at 3.2, 3.3 at the front. And the ride height, I keep mine at 76 at the front. Also very depending on the track. Spring rate is a bit more specific. I keep it somewhere between 260 and 360. Most important thing for me is I want a stiffer suspension on the front and a more softer suspension on the back to give me more traction when accelerating. This is also very personal depending on your driving style, but I prefer between 260 and 360 in front, and somewhere between 80 and 120 at the back actually. The ride height at the back, I'll keep it at I believe 81, and camber angle I keep it at between 2.3, 2.5. This is very important to slide more through corners. After that, turn angle 0.0 front, 0.2 at the back. Roll bar between 80 and 100 in the front, and between 20 and 40 at the back. Next up we got the not to forget steering ratio. This one's very important for me. Keep it at 11.5 depending on the track. It's a very bendy track. I might go to 10.5, but most of the time 11.5. Dampers, not a lot of things I can change because I don't know a lot about the damper, so just keep them all to like standard and only adjust the bump stop to 4 at the front and 0 at the back. After that, engine gearing and stuff, fuel load depending on numbers of laps, boost pressure always 100, air restrictor maximum, radiator opening, but depending on the track, but somewhere between 50 and 40 will be fine. Of course, depending on the cooling of the engine and stuff. Engine braking, keep this between 3 and 5 and you're okay. Gear ratio, you can't change a thing about it, it's very unfortunate, so keep it as stock. This is important, traction control, keep it at 15. With quality you can go a bit higher. ABS strength, I use it always at 70. It felt fine for me. You don't lose a lot of time when braking, so 70 is ideal for me. Fuel map 1.0. Differential, very important. Keep the preload at 80, and power ramp and coast ramp. Power ramp between 60 and 70. Coast ramp between 20 and 30, and power ramp is oversteer while exit out of corners, and coast ramp is oversteer while mid corners. So that's very important. The higher the number, the less oversteer you have, but obviously the less speed you can gain through a corner, so that's also very important. Well guys, this was actually my setup. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you can use the setup, maybe adjust the setup. Let me guys know if you adjusted a few things, or maybe give me a few words of advice. Thank you for watching. Bye.